Hey guys, my name's Alan. I'm here with my friend Miguel. Welcome to the first episode of Brews and Reviews. Today we're gonna review the movie Logan, which just came out this weekend.
So Logan was based loosely off the comic book Old Man Logan. Obviously, it was loosely because it wasn't able to actually pick up most of the characters because since Marvel owns them and Fox can use them, as well as it was just gonna be a whole total mess and it was gonna be everywhere. So I don't think, honestly, I like the way they went with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think from the beginning of the movie you can pick up that darker tone that I think we've been missing in the last X-Men movies and even the last Wolverine movie. So I think going based off the um, comic book right away, you can kind of pick that up, which is nice that they picked that up from the comic books because that's something that's brought from the comic book as well. So loosely, you're right, and it does bring that part into the movie.
Like what it does do is it does bring a lot of the gore and a lot of the darkness tone from the comic book into the cinema. Um, what's it called? What the best thing about the movie itself was that it was an organic dirtiness of the movie. I would say the scenery was beautiful. The cameras that they used, the lenses and everything, the landscaping, like they used a lot of afternoon takes. They did a lot of orange filters, so to make everything look a little bit more western, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, the like everything from the music to the costumes to everything. It just screamed out western and gritty. So that was amazing. That is exactly what we think of when we think of Wolverine. What's it called? The characters in this movie, they were a lot darker, a lot more human, a lot more like messed up in the head. You could tell that everything that they've had been doing for the past few years has taken a toll on them, which is something we don't really get to see in superheroes.
Yeah, I agree. Everything's more real. Over the past movies, at least from what I can tell, like you said, there is a lot of real life, issues that are brought to the characters from, mental issues to physical issues, to the point where they have to take medication like a normal person, and this is something I think aside of the mutants that we haven't seen before. So that brings a very, like you said, natural and organic feel to Logan.
Yeah, you have an alcoholic based Logan. You have a Professor X that can't handle his seizures and keeps causing hectic everywhere he goes. So it's a whole different take from the superheroes and from the comic books and from the very first few movies. What they also introduced us to a new comic book character, which was actually started off in the cartoon series, which is X-23. X-23 is I wouldn't say a clone, because they did use Logan's DNA to actually birth this child. So this child is exactly pretty much like Logan, but think of Logan in a smaller, childish, more innocent, more grittier, more faster, more
Acrobatic.
everything, more acrobatic. I mean, like think of it, the child from hell. That's exactly what it pretty much is. What's it called? One thing that they did do, which I really did enjoy, was they referenced the difference between the comic book and their universe. For example, X-23 did have a lot of X-Men comic books, and what's it called? When Logan saw them, he like right away got mad. He's like, you know what? This is my life. This is the life that a lot of us are living. A lot of us are dying. And somebody's just making money off of this, and somebody's like actually selling this, and people are reading this like if it's a joke or if it's nothing serious, or it's like, oh, you know what? Tomorrow will be a new day. But to Logan, it was like this is his real life. So he did get mad about that, and I did really enjoy that, just for the fact that it did bring closure into the whole why isn't he wearing his suit.
Right, that's correct. Yes.
So in the next part of Bruiser Reviews, we will say a few spoilers. So in case you haven't watched the movie, all we can say for now is, this movie was amazing. It is definitely the Wolverine movie that you wanted, the Wolverine movie that we all wanted and we've been wanting. It's gritty, it's amazing, it's dark. Just please don't take your kids. I really advise against it. I mean, there's not that much nudity except one booby scene, but I mean, that one booby scene counts, right? So now that everybody that has not watched the movie left, let's talk a little bit more about part two with a little bit more spoilers. So a lot of the differences, for example, like we've been talking about the comic book Old Man Logan and the movie, there's a lot of differences. For example, there's similarities as well and differences. One similarity is there is an old person that follows Logan around in his trails. In the comic book, it was a blind Hawkeye, and in the movie, it was actually Professor X. Sadly, they both die.
Mm-hmm.
In Professor X dies in the movie, and Hawkeye does die in the comic book. Um, another similarity yet difference is what happened to the superheroes from the remaining world. Now in the movie we're like actually not even told what exactly happens to them. We're just told that it was a mixture of something Professor X did, one of his seizures, that actually caused him to pretty much kill 7 mutants. That's they were saying. And in the comic book, Wolverine was tricked into actually killing off practically every single comic book hero. So after that, he takes a life of peace, doesn't fight for 50 years, and until Hulk actually is the one that pummels him into actually fighting. So then he fights Hulk, he fights everybody, and then it just becomes brutal. In the movie, it's not the exact thing. We do see a Logan that's more broken, a Logan that's an alcoholic, a Logan that's actually a limo driver. I mean, who would think Wolverine would be a limo driver? Think about it. You're going to prom, and next you know, you see Wolverine driving you around. You're like, what the fuck, you know? Like, you're a fucking monster, you know? You're driving around, like, all right, cool, whatever, you know? So there is a few differences and a few similarities. Just like X-23 did not come out in the comic book, but she is in the movie, which I actually did enjoy, because to me it was like a way of passing the torch to the next person. Now, there's also a lot of unnecessary scenes. Like, did you see any unnecessary scene in the movie?
Yeah, I actually agree with you. There was some scenes that I think, if you watch any of the X-Men movies previous to this one, you can already kind of tell what happens when a mutant becomes friend with a normal human being. It's very hard to for a mutant to adapt to a normal life. And we get to see this again when Professor Xavier and Wolverine, along with X-23, come across a regular family. They provide some hospitality by
Yeah, they provide them shelter and food.
Right. So right away when I think when everyone sees this, we think right away, oh, bad news for the human beings.
Oh, I thought about it. I thought about like, this is not going to end well for them at all. And I mean, the fact that Professor Xavier actually, he's the one that had the idea to stay there, even though Logan said, you know what, we should be leaving. It kind of left you with, what the fuck is wrong with you, Professor Xavier? I know there's a lot of issues with you, but I mean, seriously, you knew it was going to come. We all knew. I knew.
Oh, yeah.
Like, definitely. Everybody around me in the theater, they were all like, damn, they going to die, I'm like, all right, cool, So, aside from a lot of unnecessary scenes, we did have Boyd Holbrook as Pierce. He did a great role.
Yeah, excellent villain.
A lot of people were saying they had this whole thing of like, oh, why doesn't he fight Logan? Does he look like he could even take Logan on? Of course not. He's not stupid. That's what I'm saying. He has just a metal arm. That's all he has. I mean, he's badass. He's kick-ass. He knows how you shoot weapons and all this. But he just has a metal arm. That's all he has. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, in the comic book, he is like, what, I think 80% robotic. And this one is just a metal arm. So, I mean, similarities, differences. But all through the end, he was a pretty good villain.
Yeah, I think that the fact that Logan shows a more, or a weaker version of himself now in his elder age, it kind of brings down the playfield between Pierce and Logan to almost maybe not the same, because Logan still has the ability to rehabilitate after certain attacks to a certain point, but just the cunningness of Pierce throughout the movie it brings something and his villain character that's very cool to see across the
across the theater. Yeah.
yeah.
So what's it called? The story itself, it was a good story. It did remind me a lot of The Last of Us, especially with the communication between Logan and X-23. So once Logan finds out that X-23 is actually his daughter, you could tell right away that he's not ready to be a father. You could tell right away he in no near is he like close to being able to be a parent or having that parently love. So it does take a few long time, I would say, for him to actually develop that. So the story did kind of run off in circles, but I guess you kind of needed that in order for him to actually come around and be like, you know what, I love you now, or I care about you at least.
Right. I think the decision for them to hold off X-23 actually talking to Logan until after Professor Xavier dies kind of shows you the pattern as to the development of the relationship between X-23 and Logan, and daughter and father relationship. So yeah, like you said, yeah, it takes a while, but it gets to the point where Logan, or when Logan is looking at his final moments in the movie, X-23 calls him dad. So that actually presents something that you've never seen before. And as a fan, it's cool and it's sad and it almost feels a little bit rushed, because maybe we would have liked to see the relationship between X-23 and Logan develop a little bit further, but unfortunately it's a little too late.
I mean, I guess we got what we got, and the relationship did develop and it did flourish. So I mean, I can't really say anything too bad about it. A lot of people were wondering about the timeline. So the timeline, Old Man Logan took place in 2029. Now, X-Men Future Past, it took place in 2023. That's when all the Sentinels were around. So they sent Logan back into time to try and stop the Sentinels from even being started in the beginning. So there is a few years. What I did like is, I believe that this may be Hugh Jackman's last Wolverine, the last time he portrays him. I do believe that because of the big gap in the timeline, they could actually probably recast or find ways to work around Wolverine to actually keep going with the X-Men franchise. So I mean, there is those possibilities. We're not going to see X-23 at least for a while now, because that would mean they would have to jump even further the timeline. So I'm pretty sure they're going to try and go a little bit back, use the same timeline, keep going, wait for X-23 to get a little bit older, and afterwards bring her into it. Now, I'm pretty sure you knew that both Logan and Professor X were going to die in the film. I would have wished Professor X and both Logan would have died a little bit more heroic, a little bit more epic, a little bit more in the way that you remember it, and more of a good savor in your mouth. The way they did die was the way Professor X died to me was a little pathetic and a little bit. I did kind of get mad. I mean, he's talking to X-24 thinking it's Logan, and after that he just puts his claws in through his chest. Mm-hmm. And I mean that was too simple, too fast. I understand the problems he has and everything, but I mean, it is Professor X, and I did expect something more from this. So that was one little thing that I had to pick from it. I don't know, how did you think about the death of Professor X?
Yeah, I agree. It was a little abrupt and a little bit sudden, and you're almost just kind of enjoying the fact that Xavier and Logan or who he thinks is Logan, are actually enjoying a normal night per se. When all of a sudden X-24 comes and takes away Professor Xavier's life. So it is a little bit sudden, and I do agree that I wish it would have been something a little more peaceful, as I think Professor Xavier
like a better way of saying farewell to him.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big character after all. I mean, he is just Professor X. I mean, that's all he is, right? But I mean, even with the Logan death, what's it called? It felt not as bad in a way, just because he was fighting X-24, which is a very younger version of him with a fully healing factor that is still intact. He has a lot more strength. Old man like Logan was just completely, pretty much dead by the time he got to him. So he was weak from using all the serum to actually make himself stronger.
Mm.
So it wasn't even a fair fight. And then we have X-23 that jumps in to help him. Which, by the way, I have to say, when Logan and X-23 fought together, that was fucking amazing. I loved it. I loved every
Tag
single
team of the
moment.
year.
It was tag team of the year. They deserved the wrestling tag team champions. Wow, I mean, it was just crazy. It was the chemistry was there between them
Oh,
two.
definitely.
The death of Logan. I'm not gonna lie about it. I did cry in theaters. I cried my eyes out. And what's it called? Because I mean, to me, this is like a really, really strong character in my life. So what's it called? I would have wished he would have died a better way, like a stronger way, a little bit more heroic, like I said. But I mean, it doesn't bother me as much as Professor X. So I might let it go a little bit. Might, just because the whole film itself was amazing. The whole film from beginning to ending, I was entertained. I did not get bothered, and those little few things that bothered me did not outweigh the perfect movie. It was nearly perfect movie that was Logan, and I mean, the only other thing I did kind of like get me angry was when all the kids were running away. All the kids have superpowers. Nobody used their fucking superpowers all the way to the end. You have superpowers, kids, and they just ran
Oh yeah.
against people with guns, and they could have easily stopped them. But I mean, I guess whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think going back a little bit to the death of Logan, it is it's sad to see him go the way he did, but I think given to the director, I think kind of what he wanted to portray more was that at the end of it all, and deep within Logan, they portray his unselfishness and the fact that he does want to be a good dad despite him saying that he sucks at this,
Yeah, he does.
meaning his fatherhood. So yeah, it is sad to see him lose in a fight to somebody that's supposed to be a younger version of him, but the fact that he gives his life for X-23, I think it's what they kind of want to get across, which is fair, like you said. I will let it slide for that. But yeah.
So okay, guys, that was our thoughts and on our review on Logan. I mean, one through five, what would you give it?
4.5.
I would say 4.5, 4.6. It was a great movie. If you have not seen it, we highly recommend it. If you have seen it, go see it again. I'm actually going to go see it maybe 2 more times, so just to make sure I didn't
Wanna
miss
go watch it
anything.
together?
Oh, we'll go watch it together.
Yeah,
It'll be a date.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning into the very first episode for Brews and Reviews. As always, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. What's it called? Make sure to like us and subscribe to these videos, as well. Tell your friends. Why not?
Yes. Thanks, guys.
All right. Adios.